Alright, in this video I will be going over the Test 1 review for Chapter 2, and I'm guessing this will probably be 2 videos, hopefully not more than that. So let's go ahead and fill in the blanks here. So hopefully you've already gone through this and tried to answer it yourself. A linear equation is an equation that can be written in this form: ax plus by equals c. The thing that makes it linear is x is to the first power, and so is the y. A solution to a linear equation can be written as an ordered pair, which has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. A linear equation has infinitely many solutions, and its graph is a line. Notice in the word linear, you see the word line. The graph of a linear equation provides a picture of all the solutions. The slope of a line is a measure of its steepness and is equal to the ratio. It's the 2 R's, rise over run. Write down the slope formula from memory. M is for slope, and it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Write down the point slope form of a line from memory. That's the y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. This is used to find the slope of a line if I give you 2 points. This is used to write an equation if you give me a point and the slope of a line. So 1 point and the slope of the line, you can plug those in here and you have an equation of the line. Normally we'll solve for y when we're done. The graph of x equals -2 is a vertical line, and its slope, remember if it's vertical, the slope is undefined. The graph of y equals 5 is a horizontal line, and its slope, well, that's one that goes this way. It's like walking on the floor. It's nice and flat. The slope is 0. A blank is the point at which a graph crosses the y-axis. That's the y-intercept. To find an x-intercept, you let y equal 0 and solve for x. To find a y-intercept, you would let x be 0 and solve for x. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. So the x and y axes divide the coordinate plane into 4 regions called quadrants. And the way we would label it is, this is the first quadrant where x and y are both positive. And then you can think of like the letter C, and it goes counterclockwise. And so those are your 4 quadrants. You should know those quadrants. So here we had to graph some points. So let me go ahead and move this down a little bit. So 4, -3, so remember this is an x value, this is a y value. So we're going to go 4 in the positive x direction starting at 0, 0, and then down 3. So that's the point 4, -3, or the ordered pair. 4, -3, -5, 0, we're going to go from the origin 5 in the negative x direction, that's to the left, and then 0 in the y direction, so we won't move, we'll just stay right there. That's -5, 0. -1, -4 is going to be here. And 6, 4, you're going to go 6 in the positive x direction and 4 in the positive y direction. And there's 6, 4. The one that's in the 4th quadrant, remember it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 4, -3. Number 4, it says to determine whether this point is a solution to this equation. Well, remember, this is an x and this is a y. We'll plug in -7 for x and -2 for y. You're going to want to use parentheses here since you have -3 next there. We're going to end up multiplying. And we want to know if that's equal to -1. So this is -7 plus 6, which does equal -1, and so the answer is yes. So that means this point is on this line. If you were to graph it, that would be one of the points on the line. If it didn't work out and it wasn't equal, you would say no. All right, let's move on to the next page. Okay, so on number 5 it says find the slope of each line. Be sure to use 2 nice points to find the slope as needed. And when we say nice points, I want to find points that meet where these lines cross. So if you look at our graph, you can see 0, 1 is on there. Notice 1, 0 is not. Closes does not count. It's got to be exact. So notice 4, -2 is also on there. And so slope is rise over run. And always work from left to right. In fact, from left to right, this line is going down. So you expect to have it to have a negative slope. And I would start at my leftmost point, my rise. Notice to get down here, I'm going to have to go down 1, 2, 3. So my slope, or my rise, is -1. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the positive 4, or I should say in the positive x direction, 4 to the right. My run is positive. So my slope is going to be -3/4. Notice if I go down 3 and right 4 again, I'll end up being on the line again. So you can start at any point on the line and go down 4 or down 3, right 4, and you'll be back on the line. So here it looks like we have 0, -1. And 3, 1 on the graph. Now there's a couple other points. There's one here, there's one here, and down here. You could use any of the two points and you would get the same answer. I usually try to stay close to the origin. So again, it's rise over run. So we'll go up 1, 2, that's our rise, and since we went up, it's positive, +2, and then 1, 2, 3 to the right, and that's 3. So the slope here is 2/3. Now you hopefully can look at this one and know that this one has a slope of 0. If you did choose a couple of points, notice you would actually go up 1/2. And your run though, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. You actually don't go up at all. You would go up 0. To go from this point to this point, you don't rise at all. The slope is, or the rise is 0. The run here would be 1, and 0 divided by 1 is 0. But you don't really need to do this. 0 is your answer. All right, let's go down and find the slope on number 6. So here we're given 2 points and we have to find the slope. So here's where we're going to want to use the slope formula. I'm going to call this my first point, x1, y1. And this is my second point, x2, y2. And so my formula is m equals y sub 2. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So y sub 2 is just the y value of my second point, that's 5. And then notice in the formula we're subtracting y sub 1, which is -2. Be careful there, you're subtracting a negative. And then your x sub 2 is -1, and you'll subtract x sub 1, which is 5. So this becomes 5 plus 2, add the opposite, you get 7. -1 minus 5 is -6. You're basically adding -1 and -5. So we normally put the negative either in the numerator or out front. Our slope is -7 over 6. So you can do the same thing for the other one. So here it'll be 5 minus 2 over negative 3 minus negative 3. So you're going to get 3 over, now be careful, this is negative 3 plus 3. That's 0. This is undefined. So if you actually drew these 2 points, you would see that a vertical line goes through those points. That's why our slope is undefined. We got a vertical line here. Number 7, you're going to graph this linear equation by plotting points. Let me just erase this part here. So I will write my x and y here in the equation here. So what we want to do is choose some x values and solve for y. We're going to do that 3 times. Remember, the third point is basically a check. And then we'll plot those 3 points, and hopefully they'll line up, and we'll have our line. So because our denominator is 3, we want to choose multiples of 3. By doing that, we'll avoid fractions. So 0 is always a good choice. 0 times 3 is 0. So I plug a 0 in there. Well, that's 0 when you multiply negative 2/3 times 0. Add 0 plus 4, you're going to get 4. So 0, 4 is on the graph. Next, we'll plug in 3, and I'll also choose 6. Now, if I plugged it in and I got a number that took me off the grid, I would maybe use negative 3. Let's go ahead and plug in 3. So negative 2/3 times 3 is actually negative 2. You can check that on your calculator if you want. And you'll have negative 2 plus 4. I can't seem to write, which is 2. So 3, 2 is on the graph. And let's try plugging in 6. Now, if you want, you can always write this as 6 over 1. But when you multiply negative 2/3 times 6, you're going to get negative 4. Basically, it's negative 12 over 3, which is negative 4. Add that to 4, you get 0. So 6, 0 is on the graph. Notice our points line up. So let's go ahead and connect our dots. And there's your line. Now, I could have chose a number like negative 3, and we would have had a point over here. Doesn't matter which 3 points you find. I'm just trying to keep the numbers as simple as I can. So that's the first technique we learned for graphing lines. That's plotting points. The second one was by finding 2 special points, which we call the x and y intercepts. On the test, if it says use the x and y intercepts to do the graph, or use the intercept method to do the graph, you're going to have to do it this way. So normally what I tell students is make a little XY chart. You're going to choose x to be 0 and find y. You're going to choose y to be 0 and find x. So if I plug in 0 for x, this zeroes out. 0 plus 4y is 4y. And we're going to get y equals negative 5. If I plug in 0 for y, we'll have negative 5x plus 4 times 0 equals negative 20. Well, 4 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus negative 5x leaves us with just negative 5x. Now, you can divide both sides by negative 5, but hopefully you know that negative 5 times 4 would be negative 20. So x is 4. So 0, negative 5 is here. 4, 0 is here. Now sometimes people will find a third point, but as long as you're careful, the arithmetic's pretty easy. And all I would do is find these 2 points. All right, don't forget to draw lines. Hopefully make them as straight as you can and put some arrows on each end. These lines go forever in both directions here. Let's move on to the next page. All right, and I actually think I'm going to stop right here, and that's where we'll pick things up in the next video.